All right, welcome to another episode of the NFL Outdated Cover 2 series, the Super Bowl preview with the Philadelphia Eagles with Kendall Beck from All About the Birds podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good, anxious. I'm ready for the Super Bowl to be here.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you have the 2 weeks in between the Super Bowl, there's so much talk, so much build up, and everybody's kind of talking about different keys and things like that. And I think it's when the weekend and when the game comes, it's time to kind of see who's going to win, all these different things, and I'm excited. We talked about this offline. Obviously, I'm a Bears fan. I don't have a dog in this fight, but I love NFL football, and I love like hearing fans and podcasters talk about their teams and obviously, what kind of led to this. And the biggest thing I want to start out with now is as you kind of look at, maybe even the offseason, what did the path to the Super Bowl look like? And what were some key offseason moves last year that led to this moment?
So I think it all begins with Howie Roseman. He's like established a very aggressive mindset, and he kind of like pushed his chips all in once Jalen got a year of starting. It's kind of similar to when the Eagles had Carson Wentz. In Carson's second year, they went all in, and it worked out. Obviously, he didn't finish it, but they're kind of in the same situation. But this time around, there's like a path for the future rather than just like having it all backfire in your face. If that makes sense. So, AJ Brown and Smitty are very special. One with Goddard. But you have a good running back, and Kenny Gainwell. I think he has tons of potential, and he's probably going to replace Miles Sanders. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, and then we have like just different guys who are very underrated, like Quez Watkins. He has good speed. Zach Pascal's a very good, like just your typical like solid wide receiver. Like he's very selfless, and he definitely puts the team in like positions where he's like gets like doesn't get enough credit for what he does type of guy.
So
So
I would say I love that because a lot of times you're talking about AJ Brown, you're talking about Devonta Smith, and it's obviously Zach Pascal. He's been around the league. Obviously he's been with the Colts, and for him to kind of play an impact there, and then even like you brought up Quez Watkins. I mean, him maybe coming into his own. I think it sounds like those have been important pieces this year.
yeah, and a lot of those pieces were drafted by Howie Roseman, and obviously they traded for Brown, but he literally drafted the whole offense pretty much. And as good as a trade guy that he is, he's a very very good drafter too, which he just doesn't get enough credit for.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. Like, and we were just talking about this offline. I did, and I was on last year before the draft with a Cowboys a media member, and I don't know if you had seen that clip, but I did talk about Jalen Hurts taking that MVP step, being in the conversation, because I looked in college and I saw his progression, right, and a lot of people kind of want to take a young quarterback and say, well, they're horrible right away. Let's throw them out. And it sounds like, nationally, maybe even the Philadelphia media last year at this time, were you kind of on that, weren't really sure about what Jalen could do?
Yeah, I definitely am. Beginning this of the offseason last year, I was definitely like I was disappointed because Jalen Hurts didn't put on a good performance after the Tampa game, and you know all of the growth he showed last year was like, is that actually there, or is it just because he played a tough team? And he really took a lot of time this off season, and he's gotten so much better. It really is like a really special jump compared like when Mahomes in his first year starting, or everyone loves to compare him to Josh Allen. They're very similar, but they're also different because I think Josh Allen has a more complete passing game.
Mm.
But Jalen Hurts is just more special with his legs, but his passing game is developing into top 5 tier for sure.
So yeah, I mean, all those things are good. And what I'd kind of seen, obviously from the outside looking in, I liked his demeanor, right? Kind of
Yeah,
leadership,
he's
and
a very
and
good leader.
yeah, and I think he just seemed to be like even keel, right?
Correct.
And he believes in himself, right? And I think that's
Which
what
is important.
absolutely. And so as a young quarterback, it's really important then to add the pieces. Like as a Bears fan, I see a lot of hope and potential in Justin Fields. Now, could he be average? In the future, yes. I mean, but
Hmm.
I see the positives in him because of that leadership that he has, and then I think it's going to be important for the pieces that they surround him with. Obviously the wide receivers we talked about. But another key in maybe Jalen Hurts, doing well this year as well is his line. I mean, that's been important, hasn't it?
His offensive line, like
Hmm.
this might be the best Eagles offensive line ever, and it might be in like categories of like best ever, like as a whole. Like they have an All Pro center who's 35, and he's probably going to retire at his best. They have an All Pro in Lane Johnson, who's just been he hasn't allowed a sack or really a pressure in 3 years, which is unheard of. And then he has a really young and just like fresh legs, and Jordan Melita on the left side is really, really good. Later Dickinson was supposed to be a first round pick, but his injuries kind of dropped his stock. But they're just a very, very well coached by Jeff Stoutland. It's a really good offensive line, and it doesn't get much better than this.
So yeah, with it being that good, I mean, how does that affect Jalen Hurts then? Like his kind of throwing lanes, his ability
Oh
to just kind
yeah,
of have that
no,
pocket.
definitely, yeah. It gives him way more time to throw. It gives him time to improvise, and that's how you see him make so many great plays with his feet. Um, you know, on that fourth down to Devontae Smith when catch, but um, when that happened, Hurts went right, and he still had time to go on the back on the other side and throw, opposite side and make that completion to Smitty. He just has very, very special tangibles, and it's what makes him different from the other quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the quarterbacks in the league, um, if the Eagles do win this, if Jalen Hurts has a good game, I mean, he's kind of in that going to be in that category of Patrick Mahomes, right?
No, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're young. He's only
Hmm.
24. He's definitely like if you were going to redraft like for the next 10 years, he's probably a top three quarterback that gets picked, in my opinion. With Burrow, in the mix of Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, maybe even, but those are probably the top guys I think in the league who you want to, start your future with.
Absolutely, especially on the offensive side. Now, what about on the defensive side? I mean, the Eagles have really improved defensively. They have some late season pickups that have really helped them. Talk about that defensive line in some of those pickups there.
Yeah, this is again very similar to the offensive line. It's just very talented and it's deep. Um, they have probably 12 guys that can, you know, about a dozen guys who can, rush the passer like, at a very high level. I mean, Robert Quinn, he had what 19 or 18 and a half sacks last year, and he hasn't been the same production this year. He hasn't had as many opportunities, but he's like our like second string guy, our third string guy, and he's getting out there and he's looking better by the week, and it's all
You're
about just
welcome.
getting comfortable.
You're welcome. By the way.
Yeah, right. Thank you. It was a fourth round pick, correct?
Well, yeah, and so like he was having great production with the Bears, and I think he wasn't gonna, he wasn't in the long term plans for the
Right,
Bears. So I think it was
right.
important. And when he can go to a team where he doesn't have to be the man, I think that's okay. I mean, obviously the Eagles have a lot of talent there on the line. How do you think they're going to fare against the Chiefs offensive line then on Sunday?
Yeah, the Chiefs also have probably a top five offensive line. They're
Hmm.
really good inside, like center, left guard, right guard. They got some all pros in there. Creed Humphrey's a very young center, and I love him coming out. Obviously, we took Cam Jurgens because we got one more year out of Kelsey. But yeah, it's tough because I don't think Andy Reid's going to give the Eagles defensive line any time to pass. I think Andy Reid's looking to get Mahomes, getting that ball out quick, not letting the defensive line get home because Mahomes is one hit away from getting that ankle banged up again, and it's a Super Bowl. There's a lot of time, a lot of rest. Got a 45-minute halftime or half hour halftime show. He got to stay moving, and I think Andy Reid's gonna look to do that.
Yeah, and obviously, with Andy Reid, I mean, you had him as your coach for a number of years with the Eagles. Uh, what is it like, kind of in this Super Bowl, to kind of see him on the other side, and have him as the barrier to a championship?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a very good question because if you were to ask me when the Eagles fired Andy Reid that, this was even like a possibility, like you'd think not. Like, you know, he would either retire or, just the Eagles can't get over that hump. And what's crazy is that he's having really good success, but so are we. And we both obviously went different routes. And it was probably just for the better. Obviously, you want to be together and you want to make it work out, but it was just better if both sides left. And now Andy Reid's in his third Super Bowl in 4 years. The Eagles are in their second and five, so it's not too bad company to be in.
Yeah, and Andy Reid is, one of the best coaches. He's up there. But it really, when you look at the coaches, the quarterback is so important. You talked about kind of Mahomes, his mobility, and him staying kind of active. So what are you worried about most? Is it, just kind of all those improvisational plays that he can make?
Yeah, if that's been probably the one, I don't want to say issue, but just like, or not a concern either, but you just want to see more is Jalen Hurts passing. And,
Mhm.
I still think he's a very, very great passer. His deep ball has been phenomenal this year, but he hasn't looked good the past 2 weeks as a passer. The deep balls haven't been there as he, casually were, back in midseason. But I think that's just Jalen Hurts trying to get comfortable after his injury. Um, you know, he's not completely 100%, but it's been 8 weeks since the injury, so he's had plenty of time to get healed. I think they're going to look to get him active in the first half because I think the second half they'll be looking to run heavy and get his legs moving.
So yeah, I mean, you talk about kind of a run heavy. So and it was interesting you brought up Kenneth Gainwell. Then, I mean, do you see him as kind of the under the radar kind of key player? That's obviously outside of the obvious between Jalen and Patrick Mahomes.
Right, right. Kenneth Gainwell, he was a I want to say fourth or fifth round pick from the Eagles last year. He's out of Memphis. He's very young. He's a versatile running back. Um, Miles Sanders got hurt. I want to say like week 17 of the regular season, and he's been trying to. The offense has been trying to keep him involved, but trying to make sure his legs are fresh for the playoffs. And the Eagles have gotten up big these past two games, and so they didn't need Miles Sanders that much. So they just given more opportunities for Kenneth Gainwell, and he's making the most of them. And he's looking like he can be a real talent in the future, and maybe even might be the future number one running back for the Eagles.
Do you see him being able to be that bell cow back, or maybe the Eagles aren't looking for that, or?
The Eagles, they don't really commit to running backs.
Mhm.
They prefer not to spend money at that position, which is understandable. They're very easily replaced, and that's what kind of what makes Howie Roseman good. Um, I think he will likely be the Eagles number one. Again, he won't get like 30 touches a game. He might get 15 plus 16, 17, 18 next year. But with him, maybe draft one, late round again. So, but no, yeah, for sure.
When you look at this game, the Eagles were just in the Super Bowl a few years ago. Is this run a little bit different? I mean, do you feel a little kind of more confident than you did last time?
No, yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of that is to do with just being like, I kind of knew this team was going to be good um, out of the gates this year. Obviously you hope to get to the Super Bowl, but it's hard to get there. But this team had the script. They really went all in. They have nine of their starters next year on defense are all free agents. So it's going to be a very busy offseason for the Eagles. And, they're deep at a lot of positions. They have a great, cornerback trio. They have a very deep front seven. Safeties are young and developing. So definitely.
Now, what is your Super Bowl game day like? Like, are you going to be like super nervous? Do you have like a jersey that you always wear? Or?
Yeah, I'm. That's funny you asked because I asked my girlfriend if I am like superstitious, and she's like, "Yeah, you definitely are." So, I mean, I'm probably going to be very anxious all day. I'm trying to like just take tomorrow, like relax and just try not to think about it, and then just spend like binge watching pregame all day on Sunday, and then just you know drinking the anxiety away.
Any specific jersey that you're going to wear?
um, I might wear my number two Jalen Hurts, or either that one or my Malcolm Jenkins Week 1 jersey. They had like Super Bowl champions patch, so
Mm.
maybe just a little confidence boost.
Well, speaking of the game, then, do you have a score prediction?
Um, I want to say it's probably going to be a high scoring game. I think the Eagles win comfortably, and comfortably can be one possession. It can also be beyond that, and I just feel as if the Eagles are gonna find a way to win by 10 points. I'm gonna have to say 38-28 is the final score.
38-28. Okay, that's a great score. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yep. What about
Yeah, it's good.
yourself?
Yeah, I mean it's really hard. So I was the one at the beginning of the year. So I went ahead and picked Jalen Hurts to be an MVP conversation, right? But I also was the one that picked the Chiefs to be the last in the division, right?
I did the same. I really wanted because I was very jealous of Mahomes. I wanted to see them bad, but they're obviously a great team. I gotta give them credit.
Well, yeah, and you look at my rationale for that was the receivers they lost, right?
Tyreek, yep.
And I thought the same with Aaron Rodgers and the receivers that he lost. I thought it's going to be a regression, so I picked the Packers to not have a good season as well. I mean, obviously, the Bears fan, that was not too hard to go ahead and do that. And I believe it was like 7 or 8 wins. I thought, and everyone said that was crazy. But with that, and this is where I think Patrick Mahomes enters the GOAT conversation, especially if he wins on Sunday.
I agree.
He is able, what he's been able to do with these wide receivers is head and shoulders above Aaron Rodgers, right?
Definitely.
This is what Packer fans were always talking about, what Aaron Rodgers could do. He could elevate any receiver, he'll elevate. This, and obviously during that game, during the Bengals and Chiefs game, I was trolling some Packer fans. I said, "Oh, look what MVS can do with a good quarterback, right?"
Right.
And so that's what scares me a little bit. Is I went ahead and went against Patrick Mahomes, and I have a friend that is a huge Chiefs fan, and he said, "You should have talked to me first. We're going to see a scorched earth Patrick Mahomes," and so he scares me a little bit to go ahead and pick against him, right? Like all those years you pick against Tom Brady, he's
Right.
going to figure it out.
Yep.
So I'm going back and forth. When I look at Patrick Mahomes, will his team to win? I
Absolutely.
think it's possible, but yeah, I mean, when you look at just the nuts and bolts of everything, all the players, I think the Eagles just have enough to offensively and defensively to make the right play. So I think it's going to be something like a 35-28 Eagles win. I mean, I don't think it would be close if it was any other quarterback other than Mahomes, in my opinion.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have been the most consistent, and that's kind of like, how it's played out. And that's ultimately the Bengals, they made their mistakes against the Chiefs. The Bills, they played pretty poorly against the Bengals. Those are the top teams. The Ravens obviously weren't healthy. Chargers couldn't get it done. Jaguars are, in the mix, but the Chiefs are definitely the best team out of the AFC. And it had to take me another year just to buy into Mahomes, but I'm sold, and he's just the best quarterback in the league by a landslide.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, you talk about how important the offensive line is. I'm going to obviously go back to that too. When you have an offensive line that's healthy, it allows your best quarterbacks to do everything. And that's why I went back and forth with Justin Fields, and why I see a lot of potential there is because his offensive line was just horrible, one of the worst in the league. I mean, and he was
Tough.
improvising,
Hmm.
and so if you have that, and that's why I think the Bengals fell short, right?
Right.
And Eagles are coming to the top because of that, and it's allowing Jalen Hurts to do those things that he's capable of doing, and finding his open receivers, and really, like, when you look at receivers, and we haven't really talked a lot about that, but I mean, this is probably one of the most talented wide receiving cores that you've had with the Eagles. Is that right?
Yeah, this is probably. I mean, no one probably wants to admit it, but this is definitely the best receiving core the Eagles have ever had, without a doubt. And I
Yeah.
understand it's early, but I mean, these guys are like, they're very special. Smitty's a excellent route runner. He can make any play at any time. AJ Brown's very physical. He can beat you any way he wants, and he's just a very well-rounded receiver. Very can make those jaw-dropping plays. And then we have like speedy guys like Quez, and Quez is just like a 40. He's very special too.
So yeah, I mean, you talk about some of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and obviously Justin Jefferson's up there, right?
Easy.
But he was shut down in a couple games.
Yeah, he had the one against Green Bay, and then the
Mm-hmm.
one against the Eagles where Darius Slay should have had 4 interceptions, only had 2. But Justin Jefferson had like 1 catch for like 8 yards, I think, against the Eagles, just like that, or 4. Very low number, and that's huge because our secondary is so great and versatile.
So yeah, that's what you think of, like when you have a team with one great wide receiver, one great pass catcher. I mean, the Chiefs have Travis Kelce, and I put it on Twitter poll. Who's the best Chiefs tight end in history? Obviously, Tony G's up there, but Travis
Definitely.
Kelce's getting there. But if Travis
Yeah.
Kelce is really all they have, I mean, how do you see the Eagles kind of shutting him down?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because I was listening to a different podcast, and they were saying about how Jonathan Gannon's focus is just solely on slowing down Kelsey. You take him away, and you take a big part of their offense away. Not that MVS still can't beat you, or Juju out of the slot can't beat you. They obviously can, but it's about limiting Kelsey and not giving up those big chunks because if they go 10, 15 yards, they can do that play after play with Kelsey. You're going to be in a big hole real quick. So
Yeah, and so you kind of limiting him, but MVS has had problems with drops, so that kind of worries me a little bit on that Chiefs end. And when you look at the Eagles, that Eagles defense, I mean, I see them being one of the keys to the game, and let's just kind of go ahead and say, if the Eagles win, who do you think will be the MVP? I mean, will it be on the offense, or would that maybe it be a defensive player?
it really depends how the game goes, obviously. But the way the Eagles games have gone these past 2 weeks coming into the Super Bowl, it was a predominantly just like run. Let's get in there and get out. Let's put up 28 points, 31 points, 37 points, and let's go take care of business elsewhere. And I think they've been kind of saving some of their passing game tape just for this big game because you have nothing to lose, everything to gain. I think they're going to get way more pass happy this game compared to the last couple of weeks. I think they'll get Jalen's arm involved. I wouldn't be surprised if he threw for 300 plus yards, maybe even ran for an extra 50. So
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. Well, tell me a little bit about your podcast, all about the birds, and how you got it started, and when you usually record.
yeah, so all about the birds. We are on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We have right now. It's obviously the season. We have preview game shows on Wednesdays nights, and then after the game, Sunday night or Monday night, we do the post game review, and then going into the off season, we have a bunch of things planned out. A lot of mock drafts, off season signings, trades, whatnot. So all about the birds, and yes, sir.
So, win or lose, you're still going to do one this Sunday.
What's that again?
Win or lose, are you still going to do an episode this Sunday?
Yeah, yeah. I think I would probably want to do one more if we lost. Like, if we win, I'm probably gonna be full of energy and at the parade and whatnot. So I would like to, talk my emotions out if we lose, but hopefully it doesn't happen.
Definitely understand that. Well, I appreciate you coming on to talk Super Bowl, and obviously, good luck to the Eagles. And any last shout out to your co-hosts or anything?
Yes, check out Johnny Ukaleka. He is the main man that runs the show at All About the Birds. Chip, he's also one of our partners. if you want to look at them in the bio of All About the Birds on Instagram, on Twitter. And you can follow me at KBack Eagles on Twitter. And yeah, that's all I got going.
Awesome.
Hopefully we're in for a great game and entertaining game for sure.
Awesome. Thanks again, Kendall. Once
Thank you.
again, this has been NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the Super Bowl preview, Philadelphia Eagles. Thanks again.